Hi, my name's Bobby, and I would like to show you a sewing machine called the Brother NQ3500D. I just got this machine at a quilt show last Friday, and so I thought it would be fun to walk you through just some basic features of the machine and my opinions of it. So this is a sewing machine that is also embroidery capable. It has several features that I like, and so I will go over some of those. I will also definitely get into some of the things I don't like about it, and just how to operate, how to thread, how to wind a bobbin, things like that as well, just so that if anyone is considering buying the machine, or if you did just buy it and you don't know how to do something, it might be helpful. I can geek out about sewing machines and go on for a very long time about them. I'm kind of obsessed. I have 5 sewing machines. And so, if you don't have an attention span that is very long, this may not be the best video for you. But this is such a new machine that there aren't many other videos of it, so I thought it would be fun to go ahead and at least put one on here. There's a twin version of this machine called the Baby Lock Aventura, which is just, it's gold instead of blue and white. It's gold and white, but it's basically the same machine. It just doesn't do the Disney characters instead. I think it has other embroidery designs instead of Disney. I don't care about the Disney designs. This one is capable of doing them, but I probably won't ever use them. But it is equipped with that. I am actually more interested in the sewing features, personally, because I already have a Bernina Artista 200 that does a great job with embroidery. And so, and I hardly ever embroider anyway, so I really don't need to use that functionality very much. But it might be nice to have a backup embroidery machine when the Bernina's in the shop or something, but I really wanted this for the sewing features. So let me just go ahead and do a basic overview. I'm going to start with just the function buttons on the front as a basic introduction to some of the features of the machine. So starting with the very first function button, this one here. This one is the button that is a stop and start button. So that will actually start the motor of the machine. It'll start at sewing, so you don't have to use a foot pedal. So if you want to sew hands-free, you're welcome to do that. There is a little bump here, kind of like the little bump on F and J keys when you're touch typing, so that'll kind of let you feel where the button is. I don't like to use it. I don't like to give up that level of control, so I do like to use the foot pedal. It does have a speed control slider, which will govern the speed of the machine with or without the foot pedal. So if you use stop-start, you can definitely change the speed of the machine and govern it in that way. But this is also the stop-start button for embroidery, so all it does is stop and start the motor of the machine. But it also communicates with you by changing color. So when it's red, that means the presser foot is up and you cannot sew. If I hit the foot pedal right now, the screen's going to tell me to lower the presser foot. I can't sew, so that's red. Now, when I put it down, this light's going to turn green, and that tells me that I can sew. So that is, that's good. You know, just it changes colors to tell you those things. But if I slide the bobbin winder over to the right, it tells me that the machine, it turns orange to tell me the machine is in bobbin winding mode. So that's good, because, you know, if I tried to sew and nothing was happening under the needle and I didn't realize this was over, it would tell me that. So that's kind of neat to just realize. Let's see. The next button is the reverse button. So this is for backing up. Okay, so that's for sewing in reverse. It's not a permanent reverse, so it will not stay on. Some machines have that feature, this one lacks it, but I don't use it very often on my machines that do have it. Basically, it's just for reversing to secure your stitches, so you do have to hold it down. It makes a beep when you press it, but you do have to hold it down to make it reverse. The next button up is a really cool button, which I really like. It's a button that will reinforce stitches. It also functions as a pattern end, or a stop button. So reinforcing stitches, that means that if you're sewing a decorative stitch, instead of reversing to back tack or to reinforce stitches, it will just sew in place to do that, so you don't mess up your design aesthetically. The other thing that it will do is function as a pattern end button. So if you're sewing a decorative stitch and you're in the middle of that stitch and you realize you're about to run out of fabric, or whatever the reason is, you don't want to make any more, but you're in the middle of one, you press that button, it'll complete the one that it's on, but it will not make a new one. That's a very handy feature. A lot of machines have that. I'm glad this one does. The thing is, it like if I'm sewing letters, sometimes I'll be writing, you know, just words out on the back of a quilt or something on machines that do monogramming like this one does. And without this feature, you know, if I'm not watching it, it'll keep sewing the next. It'll start sewing the phrase all over again from the beginning after it's completed it the first time if I'm not watching it closely enough, and then I've got to pick stitches. So things like that, it's really handy for just for stopping right when you want to, making the exact number of something that you want. So I do like that feature a lot. The next button over is the needle up down button. So pressing this button, this is not a button that will change the stop position of the needle. So this one does not make it always end in up or down. This machine does have that feature and it's in the computer, so you have to do that on the touchscreen. But this one just changes the needle to the opposite position. So if the needle is up, it'll put it down. If the needle is down, it will put it up. That's all it does. So a lot of machines have a heel tap feature for that. This one, my Bernina does. This one does not. So unfortunately, you always have to use the button. It's not a big deal. That's just the way this one works. But this one is the thread cut button. This one is the one that cuts the thread when you're finished sewing. So you don't need to use scissors. You can use the razor on the side as well. There's a razor on the side of the sewing head, like most machines have, to also manually cut. But this one, you just press this button, it will cut the threads top and bottom and bring them both to the bottom. So that's a huge time saver, and it works perfectly. I know on some other machines, when you use that, the needle comes unthreaded every time you press the button. I have one like that. And I have another one that doesn't do that. It works perfectly, and that's another Brother, of course. Brother does that really well. The thread cutter just works how it's supposed to. And the next button over is the button that raises and lowers the presser foot. So there are actually 3 ways to raise and lower the presser foot on this machine. There is a manual lever in the back. Okay, so you can raise and lower it that way if you want manual control. Okay, when it's all the way up, if you need some extra height, you can actually lift it more and hold it up to get some more bulk under the foot if you would like to do that. So that is an option. The other way is a knee lifter. Now, this is something that I did not know when I bought this machine, but this is kind of something that is really important to know. The knee lifter is not mechanical like it is on many machines. It is actually electronic. So when you lower the foot, I'm going to just put fabric under here so the feed dogs don't abrade the foot when I do that. The foot will actually be raised and lowered by the motor. So if I were to slide this to the right or the left, it's just the motor's going to lower the foot, so it's completely electronic. So, you know, that's me moving the knee lift, and I'm not doing that. That's the motor doing that. So basically you're just turning a switch, so you're not fighting a spring the whole time. So that's actually kind of cool. That means that it's just easier to activate. Okay, so because it's just simple. But here's the thing, you don't have any manual control. So basically, when you slap that knee lever, it's going to go all the way up or all the way down. You can't really have any manual control over how high it comes on each lift. There is a way to preset the highest that it will go in the computer of the machine, so I can show you that later. But you don't have any manual control with each lift. So basically it's all the way up or all the way down. All the way up meaning whatever you have it set to. But still, that's you do have to give up some manual control for that, but it's still very easy to activate, so that's cool. Another really good thing about this system is that when you do press the knee lifter, it makes a noise, obviously, and it goes all the way up, so there's no accidental activating of the knee lift. So on my machines that have a mechanical knee lift, often I'll be sewing and the fabric's moving all over the place. It looks like a line of drunk driving, and I can't figure out the reason. Well, the reason is because I've accidentally activated the knee lift while I was trying to sew, and it's silent on a mechanical one, so you can't really tell. This one, very obvious when you do that. So the machine, and when the foot's up, the machine will stop sewing. So you know, you can't get it wrong. It's going to go up or down all the way. It's going to make a noise, so there's no mistaking it. The third way to raise and lower the foot is the button on the front. So that'll also raise and lower the foot. I thought this machine also had an automatic lifting and lowering foot like the Vikings do. What they do is when you step on the pedal to sew, they'll lower the foot automatically. When you lift up on the foot pedal, they will lift the presser foot automatically. This one does not do that. It does have a pivot feature, so if I activate the pivot feature, if I were to start to sew, and then take my foot off the pedal, it will raise the foot with the needle down, so I can turn a corner, and then I can start to sew again. It'll lower the foot, keep sewing, same thing over and over again. But if I want to take my fabric out of the machine, I simply can't do it without manually raising the foot in one of the 3 ways. So I've got to lift this lever. Actually, in this case, what I would have to do, because it's in the pivot function, I can't even, the foot's already up right now, and I'm done sewing. So basically I would have to lower it again and then raise it, or I can just hit the thread cut button and it'll do it for me. but I would have to, you know, raise that foot manually at the end of sewing somehow. So I don't like that. I wish it was completely automatic, and it seems like that would be an easy thing for them to fix in the software of the machine, because obviously it has the capability. It's just not programmed to do it, which is a little infuriating. But that's pretty much how you lift and lower the feet. Those are all the function buttons. This speed control slider can also be accessed to be the width control, or it can be programmed to be the width control for the needle, so you can actually move the needle left and right into any of the 28 needle positions. My dealer told me there were 11. There's actually 28 needle positions on this machine, and so you can access those and change the width with that the slider for speed control. So this does three things. This varies the width, okay, or changes the needle positions if you have it set up to do that. Otherwise, it will govern the speed of the foot pedal. So your max speed, even if I floor it, if I have it on this speed, it's going to go very, very slow. So basically, right now I'm going to stomp on the foot pedal as hard as it goes, and I'm just flooring it, and nothing, I mean, I'm not going to go any faster than that. It's governing the foot pedal. Okay, that's medium, high, no. So that's all with the foot pedal floored. If I unplug the foot control, okay, I should be able to press, yep, I can press stop start. Okay, it's going to sew. I can govern that as well. And then stop. There's no foot pedal there. That's just the stop start button. Cut the thread. But I usually leave it on as fast as it'll go, and I just use the foot pedal to control my own speed. You do have to unplug the cord from the side of the machine in order to use the stop start button. That's something I don't like about it, but Brother seems to always require that. I don't know why. But let me go ahead and get this fabric out, and let me show you the functionality of the width control too, just for fun. Okay, so width control on. Now, when I move this, you see that? It's going over. Okay, so that's now my width control. So that's really kind of cool. One thing you can do with it is vary the stitches while you're sewing. So you can actually, if you're doing a zigzag, let me find one. If you're doing a zigzag or something like that, you know, you can start off with the predetermined width, and then you can raise it. Zigzag, you can actually change the width of it while you're sewing, or sometimes some of the satin stitches as well. So I'm going to start off just sewing with the default, and I'm going to just gradually move the speed control slider. All the way until I get up to 7 millimeters, which is as wide as this machine will sew. Then I can go back down if I want. I know Janome also has this feature, and it's actually activated via the knee lift, which is really cool, but Brother doesn't do that yet, at least on this model. But, you know, I was able to vary the width of that and taper the stitch just by moving the slide control, the speed slider. So that's really fun. So anyway, the other way to access the width is by pressing the menu button on each stitch. There is a way to change that. It looks like if you have this set, it will actually take away the other control and let this be it instead, which is really fascinating. Okay, so I'm still learning too, but anyway, one of the things that I really like about this machine is one of the really unique features about it. It's the powerful feeding, and the powerful feeding is huge. This has a couple of features that actually set it apart from other sewing machines, and one of them is an elongated feed dog. So basically getting the presser feet on and off is really easy. You just push the button on the back and they drop off. Okay, so they're snap-on presser feet, that's what those are called. So that does mean that if you want to put on a walking foot, which this machine does not come with, unfortunately, if you want to put on a walking foot or a free motion foot or the embroidery foot, you do have to unscrew the snap-on ankle and manually screw the other foot onto the machine. So that's not as fun as, say, a Bernina, where they have that cone clamp system, but it does work. And you know, I mostly sew, so I don't change feet very often. But let me show you, my previous Brother was a PC420 that I've owned and loved for years, and so this is the J, the standard presser foot. It's the straight stitch zigzag, just the all-purpose foot that comes on the machine. So this is the same foot on both machines, but you can see the one on the PC420 is really small compared to the one on the NQ3500D, which is a mouthful. So yeah, there's just, this one is elongated. The feed dogs are actually longer front to back than they are on previous models. So quite a difference there. And so they grab the fabric better. And they're also a box feed, so that means that instead of the feed dogs traveling in an elliptical pattern or an oval-shaped pattern, they actually travel in a box-shaped pattern. So the fabric is actually held more securely. It's just fed better. The feed dogs are in contact with the fabric for more of their travel. So that is really cool. But another feature that is really awesome in conjunction with those things, because those are awesome enough, but another really nice thing is that this has automatically adjusting presser foot pressure. You can also manually adjust it if you want to, but when you have it on automatic, the machine constantly feels the fabric, the thickness of the fabric, and it will continually adjust the foot as you sew. So that's really cool. So what are the benefits to something like that? Well, I was able to quilt. I just made a small sloppy mini quilt just to test this machine. I was able to quilt this little thing with no walking foot. Anytime I've tried that on a machine in the past that did not have a walking foot on it, I would get puckers on the top or the bottom. Usually the bottom, sometimes the top. I didn't get puckers anywhere on this whole thing. So I really made this just to test the machine. It's quite sloppy, but I just wanted to see what the machine would do. And it powerfully fed this fabric so easily with not one pucker. Really cool. I just love that. So it does a great job. Another thing that I did with it was just piece some half square triangles into chevron blocks. So I made this, okay, and I made a blue one as well on this machine. So basically I did that. So you know, that's how they're supposed to look. But what's cool is that they are very easy to make on this machine. When I join the two halves together, on most machines I have to play with the presser foot pressure. I have to pin right at the seam line, or the fabric would get skewed and it would shift right where the middle seam line is. And this time it did not happen. This machine, because of the adjusting pressure and the powerful feeding, it fed perfectly straight without skewing anything. So that's what actually sold me on the machine. That's what made me realize that I am keeping it and I'm not getting a refund or taking it back or getting a different model. I really like this one. So the feeding is amazing. So let me just show a little bit. I'm going over 6 and 8 layers of fabric here just to show the difference, or just to show how it does feed a little bit thicker fabric. Of course, this is just quilting cotton. I'm not a garment sewer, so I don't sew denim, so I don't know how it would work on something that thick. I only quilt and it does that fine. Okay. So it did a fine job. It really just worked perfectly. So that's great. I still had it set up in a zigzag, but it was, the width was as small as it goes, so it still performed a straight stitch. But let me get back to the stitch that I use the most is the piecing stitch, and so that would be on this machine stitch number 29. So it's really easy to choose stitches. Let me go ahead and show that a little bit as well. Let me get you closer so you can see the touch screen. See if I can find a stylus here. It's the touch screen, okay, of the machine. This is the control panel. So let me go ahead and just walk you through some of the basic features about it. It's going to make me choose a stitch before it lets me out of that menu. Okay, so when you turn the machine on, let me start there. So when you, there's no animation, it's just like a screensaver. So it's flashing pictures of projects that you can do with the machine. You can turn that off as well if you don't like it, but you just turn this on by touching the screen, and you can't sew until you do that. So you touch the screen, and by the way, when you turn the machine off, it remembers your settings. So I've still got the width control being the speed slider, but I'll turn that off in a little while just to show you how. But the basic buttons on the front of the screen, keep in mind that these buttons here on the bottom are capacitive touch buttons, so they're not membrane buttons. So that means that you need to use, kind of like your cell phone, you've got to use a capacitive stylus, something that has an electrical charge or can you know, work on a cell phone, those kinds of things. If you try to use a regular stylus, it's just not going to work. It's got to have your fingers work, but it's going to be something like that. So this is kind of like those capacitive touch buttons on the bottom of your cell phone that flank the home key. Sometimes if you have an Android or a Windows phone, they have those. I don't think Apple's do, but they respond to touch, but you don't have to press very hard. You're just touching them, but it's got to be something that has an electrical charge in order for it to work. So anyway, that is pretty much how that works, but there are several buttons below the touchscreen. So the first one is a back button, and that button will take you to the previous screen on the touchscreen. So this is not the reverse button for sewing. That's over here. Okay, the reverse button for sewing, is by the needle. So this is the back button for the touchscreen. Okay, this button here, the second one, is going to lock the machine. So it will drop the presser foot and it will turn off every button. So basically, I'll do that now just for fun, just to show you. That's what you get on the screen. So I can't touch anything now. If I press the foot button, if I press stop start, if I slide the width control, that works. But nothing works. I can't press anything else except this button. So if I stop on the foot pedal, nothing's going to happen. So it's really easy though. I can just unpress it by doing that again, and it brings the machine back to life. It does leave the presser foot down, which is weird. It doesn't bring it back up. But let's see the other buttons. So these two are just like arrow keys to scroll across the touchscreen. So if I need more options than are currently shown on the screen, it is a rather small screen, by the way, but they've made it efficient. And I know lots of machines have a screen that big. Even my vintage Bernina from 2002 has a much bigger screen, even though the clarity's not quite as good. But it is a small screen, but it is a color screen. The definition's pretty good, so that's okay. But basically, these are just to let you navigate the menus. So Brother organizes their menus pretty well. There's a little fraction here that shows you I'm in menu 4 of 6 right now. So it tells you kind of where you are in the menus, and that's pretty consistent throughout the entire operating system of the machine. Even in the settings menu, it does that, so you kind of know. But the next button down on the second row, the very first button, is how you choose your stitches. So the stitch menu options. So we've got utility stitches, decorative stitches, buttonholes, sideways sewing. This does have 4 directional sewing, so the feed dogs will move left and right and front and back. So I would be impressed with that feature if I didn't already own a Bernina that sewed in 16 directions, but this one does sew in 4 directions. So this one, more decorative stitches, more satin stitches, heirloom stitches, all kinds of fun stuff. So monogramming, and then this is the create your own stitch feature here. So basically, you can make your own stitches. So that's kind of cool. I actually have used that feature on a cheaper machine, on a Brother PC 420, to make a dog bone, and it was really fun to do because it let me be a little more creative and flexible. But on that one, on machines that don't have a touchscreen, what you have to do is you have to see, you move that by doing that. You can move that and then set points, basically, is what you're doing. And then it's kind of like drawing on an Etch-a-Sketch, really. But basically, on a machine that doesn't have a touchscreen, you've got to you got to just plot the points on graph paper that it comes with, and then set them in the machine manually. It's very tedious, very tedious. So this one looks much easier to use. I've not really played with it yet, but it looks really cool. You can even change the view to be horizontal if you want. So that's really fun. My other machine didn't have that, and I like that. So I will use this feature. I had my first class on the machine last night, and the sales lady said nobody has ever asked her about that feature or told her that she used it. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, I try to use all the features in my machines, which is just fun. But let me go ahead and cancel that, and then that's pretty much it with the menu here. There are memory pockets, so you can save stitches. There's also a USB port for putting designs on the machine and updating software if they ever do that. There's also an embroidery button here, so this will take you into the embroidery functions. I don't have the embroidery module on right now, but I can still play with it if I just push that button. So if I want to do a design, I can just click there, and basically the embroidery, let's see, tiny screen for embroidery. I don't do embroidery often, and I haven't played with this very much, but let's say that I chose this design. I can magnify it, just some of the basic settings. Okay, so I can look at it bigger or smaller. you know, and I can pan around, up or down, whatever I need to. I can change the hoops if I, let me hit OK. I can change the hoops if I want to. This one won't let me because I think there's only a limited size that some of these you can't change the hoops on because they're a certain size and you just can't do it. But it will let me move it as well, so I can move the design. Let me zoom back out so we can see what's going on here. Alright, so I can move it up or down, or diagonally, or I can put it back in the middle, right where it started if I want to press the middle dot. Okay, sizing, you can make it bigger or smaller, but, there's a but, it will not let you go any smaller than 10% of the original size. You can go 10% down and you can go 20% up, and that is it. My Bernina allows me to infinitely resize, and it recalculates the stitches for me. It also has a push and pull compensation adjustment and density. It's just a much better embroidery machine. This one's really simple. This one is kind of designed for people who don't want to be too technical, don't want to have a lot of control over stuff. They just want something easy that just works. So, you know, different strokes for different folks, but I don't like this. If I try to make it smaller, it will let me do it a little bit. But once I get to a certain point, it says, no, you can't do it anymore. You're done, son. And I hate that. I hate that. I don't like having that lack of control. I want to be able to make it. What if I want it smaller than that? I've got to go to software? Are you kidding me? I don't even own software yet because I haven't had to with the Bernina. But now I have to buy it for this machine or just do everything on the Bernina. I can go bigger as well, but once I get to a certain point, it's going to say no. It's going to say you can't do that. Too bad. If I want to go back to the original, I can hit that, go back to the original size. Okay, I can also rotate the design, so I can flip it. If I want to, I can reset it to the original, which I just did. And let's see, this one is just changing the thread colors. So if I wanted that color to look purple instead, I could do that. If I wanted it to be yellow, I could do that. So just to kind of give you an idea of how it's going to look when it stitches out. I'm trying to see what else. You can mirror image as well. I can add a font. I can add something to it. So I can add letters if I would like to. Okay, so I can write hi. And I can press enter. It does multi-line text. So I can press enter. And I can say something else. Let's see what else I want to say. Hi, UT. U-B-E. Okay, so hi YouTube. So I'm gonna say that, and then I can hit OK. Now, my design is they're overlapping, so I've got to move. I've got to move the letters basically. So I need to select. I can select anything on the screen, and I can move it just by pressing the select button. One thing it does not have, I can't select everything and move it all at once. My Bernina does allow that. This one does not, but I can select things one at a time and move them. So I can move this down here. Okay, hit OK, select, and then I can highlight something else and move that. So I can move this way up to the top. Okay, and then hit OK, and then if I want to, I can edit the text. So I can literally I can drag it around as well. I forgot about that. Yes, this allows you to do that. That's fun. That's something the Bernina does not do. We finally found something. So I can drag it around, which is kind of fun. I can also select individual letters if I want to cut them apart and alter them individually. So that is that's kind of cool. Yeah, I would select that here if I wanted to do that. But arraying is fun too, because you can actually change the way the letters look. So you can make them, you know, go on an angle. You can make them arc, which isn't very obvious with only 2 letters, but you know, those are some of the features that it allows you to do. And that's pretty much that's what I know about the embroidery so far. I haven't really done much with it. This is the embroidery screen. So if I told it I wanted to embroider, this is what it would look like. And so it's going to tell me how many stitches I've done out of how many there are, how many minutes remaining. Okay, so that's going to take 12 minutes to stitch out. Tells you a list of the colors. Okay, so That's kind of cool because you know where to go. And if I was ready, I could just attach the module and just stitch that out. I'm not going to, but I could. So anyway, that is pretty much just the embroidery button. So those are the things that it gets you into. Let me go back to, if I want to leave that and just go back into the sewing machine, I can just press the stitch selection button. Okay. This is the settings button, and this is where things get fun. This is really awesome. Okay, so when you press the settings button from the home screen, it's going to take you into the settings menu, and so this is where you can make all your changes. So basically, these are, I'm just going to walk through the changes, the menu, and see what each one does. So this one is the width control, so that's what I showed you, where you can change the speed control slider to be the width control, on or off. I'm going to turn it back off because I don't like to use it for that unless I really need to for something specific. This is the adjustment for stitch balance, so either vertical or horizontal feed dog adjustment. So if you have a decorative stitch that's not performing properly, it doesn't look right when it's sewing out, you can adjust the balance of it with these keys. So that's for the fine vertical and horizontal adjustment. Twin needle sewing, if I turn that on, it will limit how wide the machine can go, how wide the needle swing is from left to right, so that it doesn't strike the needle plate with a twin needle. So that's a good safety feature to have. Now the next menu, see, we're in 1 of 10, so I've got 10 menus to go through. The way you get to that is by pressing the arrow keys. So another thing that it lets you control is presser foot height. So basically, this is how high the presser foot will come up when you lift it. So when you're hovering, I have mine on as high as it will go, but when you're hovering or doing other kinds of work, that's how high it will stop when it's raised, basically. So that's all that does. And this one, the presser foot pressure, now that one will choose how hard or light the machine foot is pressing on the material. So I'm a firm believer in having a sewing machine that has adjustable pressure. I won't own one that does not. I just refuse to. And I know a lot of machines are having that feature deleted these days because manufacturers want to push people toward higher-end machines or whatever the reason is. But I won't own a machine without that because I constantly adjust it depending on what I'm doing. So you can hear the motor making the noise of adjusting the foot when I raise or lower that number. So 1 is the lightest pressure, 4 is the highest. If something is highlighted, that means it's the default setting. So this is, number 3 is the default setting for this foot. So that's fine. It's fine there unless I need to do something else with it. But another feature, the next one down, initial position. Lots of Brother machines start off with the needle in the left position. I hate that. I never sew like that. I always want it in the middle needle position, just because that's just easier for me to use. If I'm using 1/4 inch foot, it has to be in the middle needle position or I'll break a needle. So I don't want to have to manually set that. So I can actually choose with this machine where it starts every single time, and I love that. So it should just start in the middle anyway, but at least I have the option to pick it, so that's fine. Now I'm going to go over to the next option, number 3, and see. Watch, if I press this with the stylus, nothing's happening. So I've got to press it with my my finger here. This is an old stylus that came from a primitive cell phone, so of course it's not capacitive, but the screen isn't capacitive, it's resistive, so this will work on the screen. And I don't normally use a stylus. It didn't come with a stylus, by the way. Most computerized machines these days do come with a stylus. This one did not, so along with the walking foot, which it didn't come with, which I'm still not happy about. But it did come with it came with a brush that you could use the pointed end of it to use, or the seam ripper, I guess you could use as a stylus. But my finger usually works well enough. I just want to use this because my fingers are fat, and if I get them in the way, you can't see what I'm pointing at. But pivoting height, so that chooses how high the presser foot comes up on pivot. I have it as high as it'll go, but it's kind of the same thing, just how high the presser foot will be when it's raised during pivot. So that is, a lot of people like that really low. I don't really care as long as it's off the fabric so I can turn it. Free motion height is how high the foot will be floating over the fabric when you're free motioning. So that's something that you have control over. I have mine as high as it'll go for now. I may adjust that. The automatic fabric sensor system is the thing that I have been using and loving lately, where the presser foot will actually adjust the pressure automatically depending on how thick or thin the fabric is that's underneath it. So really cool feature. You can actually hear the machine making adjustments electronically as you're sewing, which is just awesome. Reinforcement priority has to do with just when you reinforce a stitch, the backing up and automatic back tacking. Apparently, that will do something like, it'll let you reinforce a stitch that isn't already equipped with that feature, or something like that. The teacher told me something about that last night in class, and I don't remember because I'll never use it. So this is the embroidery frame identification view, so I'll never use that, but it's there. Embroidery thread colors, so you can actually choose whether you want the name of color or the thread number to be displayed when you're picking embroidery colors. You can choose brands, so there's Country, Madeira Poly, Madeira Rayon, Sulky, Robinson Anton, or just embroidery. So I'm just going to leave it on this and this. So I've got it on name of color and generic embroidery because I don't really care. I don't buy specific brands of thread and match the colors to the designs. I'm just not one of those people. I kind of pick my own colors. So max embroidery speed, that lets you choose how fast the motor goes. The default is the max, which is 850. See, I can't go up anymore. I can go down if I want, by hundreds it looks like. Down to 350 stitches per minute, so that's pretty slow. Even 850, really, the max speed is pretty slow compared to some of the newer high-end machines, but I don't need anything faster than that. Just be aware that that's as fast as it will go. Okay, so you can set the embroidery foot height and the embroidery tension. You can also make some other selections with the view in embroidery mode, so you can pick some things there as well. And I think that has to do with colors. Yeah, you can change the background color of the embroidery, and you can change the thumbnails as well. So if you would like to do that, you can. Okay, thumbnail size, you can choose large or small, and you can choose whether the machine displays things in inches or millimeters. I'm going to use millimeters because that's what I'm used to. Okay, another setting, needle up down position. So this is where you choose that stopping position for the needle. So the needle will either stop always in up or down. You can pick that. If you want to change it to the opposite position, you have to press that function button, but you can always choose where it ends. So I've got mine set down right now because if I need it up, I can press the thread cutter. That will raise it for me automatically, so I don't have to worry about that. The buzzer, so that just turns on the beep or off the beep. So if I turn that off when I push buttons, nothing will happen. I'll turn it back on just for fun. Opening screen, so I could turn that opening screen off if I want to, and the machine would just come right up and let me be able to sew without having to touch the screensaver first. So I don't mind that being on, so I'll just leave it there for now. Language, so I can actually pick a different language if I don't want it in English, which of course I do. I don't know any other languages. The other day I got it stuck in German and couldn't get out of it because I had just gotten the machine and I hit OK without realizing it, and then I couldn't tell what OK was again. I couldn't get back to it. Finally, trial and error got me back to it, but I did get it stuck in another language, so be careful with that. Okay, so light, this turns the lights on and off, so I can actually shut the lights off if I want to. I can have them on if I want to. And then input sensitivity, that controls how sensitive these buttons are. That's capacitive touch buttons. So that's pretty much what that does. It does not control the touch screen at all. So just know that it's just for the capacitive touch buttons below the touch screen. Service count. So service count, I have put how many stitches on this machine? I have put 18,000 stitches on it in less than a week. I've had it 6 days and I've put 18,000 stitches on it. Some of that was me trying embroidery, which I did one time, but that's pretty much it. Looks like I have version 1.08 on this machine, and I saw on the Brother website I might be able to update the operating system, which would be kind of cool. Which I may well do. You have to do it with a USB stick, and I don't know how that works exactly, but I'm going to try to find out because I wonder if it will include some lacking features. But like for example, the Brother website says that this machine will allow you to adjust the brightness of the touchscreen. There's no setting in the entire machine for that, not at all. Even the dealer couldn't find that last night at class, and so it's just not there, period. So, and there's nothing in the entire book about it. I've read it from cover to cover already and forgotten half of it. I already knew the other half. But, yeah, so there's nothing in the book about that unless I just missed it, but I can't imagine that to be the case. So, anyway, that's all of the settings. So, The next button over would be the on-screen tutorial. And so that one will allow you to access the tutorial to show how to put on and take off presser feet. Okay, it will show you how to wind and thread the bobbin, how to thread the machine, how to put on the embroidery module, how to embroider. So if you choose one of those, basically you have to go through the steps with these buttons here. So with the navigation arrows, you have to scroll through the steps manually. So there's not a lot of action that happens here. There was that one animation. There's a few animations, it looks like. But nothing, it's not a video. There's no sound. So, you know, it works well enough. It seems to be good quality. I already had a Brother machine before this that was very similar, so I didn't need to really see any of these. But it really is helpful for new sewists, just people who are just getting the machine and have never had one like this and are scared of it. You know, that's really nice to have there. So anyway, let's see what else. Let me go back to a zoomed out view, overview of just some of the features, how the touchscreen looks and works. Gonna remove the knee lifter. So let me talk about some things that I like about the machine, some things that I really like, some things that I don't care about, some things that I don't like. So one of the things that I really appreciate about Brother machines is the needle threader. When they have a good needle threader like this, the really low-end machines don't do this, but my PC 420 did, and the really good machines, the higher-end ones, do as well. But basically, what this threader does, it is a one-touch, one-finger needle threader. So what you do is you get the machine threaded, and I'll show that in another video, but you thread the machine up to the point where you need to thread the needle. And then you just draw the thread through the needle threader. So you stage the thread, basically. You draw it through step number 7, which is printed right there. Just draw it through the slit, and then you lower the lever, and it puts the thread right through the needle. It works the first time every time, so you only have to use one hand or one finger. I know a lot of other brands and lower end machines require you to hold the lever down, draw the thread across 2 guides, hook it through a little hook that you can break off. It never works on the first try. So yeah, this one does not do that. This one works the first time every time. It literally puts the thread right through the eye of the needle. I really like that about it. Okay, it also has a razor on the side for cutting the thread, and what I like about that is that the razor is literally on the side, so it's a horizontal razor. It's easier to pull the thread toward you. Okay, instead of a lot of machines have the razor on the side of the sewing head up here, and it's vertical, and you have to draw the thread up higher, pull it down. I just don't like that as much. It's really handy to have it here. So if I do want to cut manually instead of using the automatic thread cutter, I can definitely do that. So. Another thing I like about Brother machines a lot is that if you look on this side of the machine, they always put a ridge on the top of the hand wheel, so you know when the needle is in the highest position, which is really important to know for threading. So very cool to know. I really appreciate that feature. That is something that, I mean, the take-up lever is hidden on these machines, so you can't really see that. So you can't really tell by looking at that if your needle's in the highest position or not. So always having that ridge there is really helpful. Sometimes if the needle threader won't pull down, that can be the problem. You know, the ridge isn't in the highest position, the needle's not in the highest position. So if the needle threader ever doesn't work, you want to make sure the needle's always up. But that does seem to resolve some issues. Okay, so other things that I like, the spool pin is front and center, right in the middle where I like it. It's not hidden off in the back corner somewhere, so that's kind of cool. Let me get into the things that I don't like, just because no machine is perfect, and there are several things that I have complaints about. So I don't hate the machine, I still love it, I'm keeping it obviously, but there are some complaints. So one of them is in order to attach the vertical thread stand, you have to remove the dust cover and stitch chart, which is not fun. You have to actually take this completely off the machine to hook that up. I hate that. Another thing that I don't like is that to change the feed dog, let me show you the feed dog drop lever, which is actually back here. And so to access this, you know, to change the feed dogs up or down for free motion quilting or embroidery, you have to remove the accessory case. It's not just exposed on the back. You know, my other machine, it didn't have a storage compartment at the back, and so I could readily access this button. Now this I have to slide off to access that button, and I hate that. But this will drop the feed dogs. I just did it. I just dropped the feed dogs by sliding that over. If I want to raise them again, I slide it back over. However, they're not going to come back up until I start sewing. So if I don't take my first stitch or turn the hand wheel, they're going to stay down until I do that. So just know that that does happen. Also, this presser foot lifter is really short. It's kind of awkwardly shaped. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the strangest presser foot lever I've ever encountered. I don't know why it's not longer. It's just a weird one. That's all I can say about that. Let me go ahead and turn this back around. And what else do I not like about the machine? It does not have an independent bobbing winding motor. I don't care about that feature personally. My Bernina has it. I've never used it once. I don't wind bobbins while I'm sewing, but I think a machine that costs this price probably should have that. That's just a feature that should be included. Another thing that I really dislike is the foot pedal. It's the cheapest foot pedal I've ever seen. The machines that come from Walmart that sell for $89 come with a better foot pedal than this. And so this machine is several $1,000s. It should not come with this foot pedal. Okay, should not, just shouldn't. It's an awful foot pedal. It's low quality. It just doesn't feel good. It's awful. It's lightweight. It's just a terrible, terrible foot pedal. It's really awful, and they should do something about that. So the internet shows me that there's a multifunction foot pedal available for this machine, which would allow heel tap, cutting, and raising and lowering of the needle, but there's no way in the operating system of the machine to make that work. So even though they say it'll work with this model number, there's no way to program the functions of it in the computer of the machine. So therefore it's not available for this machine unless they do a software update, which I don't know if will happen or not. But those are some of the things I don't like about the machine. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. There are some things in embroidery that I don't like, but I think I mentioned those already. Just you can't resize, you can't adjust push and pull compensation. You can resize a little bit, but not enough. So there are little things like that, but it's still a great machine. The reason I'm keeping it is because of the performance, even though it lacks some of the features that I like. Of course, I also didn't like that it lacks automatic presser foot raising and lowering except in hover or pivot. That's just something that they could easily include and have chosen not to, probably. I can't even say it's to push people toward the higher-end machines, because even the next series up, the V-Series Dream machines don't do that. So, and I mean like Dream Creator, Dream Weaver, not the Dream machine, which is the top machine. But they don't allow you to do that. So, unfortunately, not good. But it does do decorative stitches really well. I wanted to show a little bit of that. So if I were to, let me put on the open toe foot as well, just for fun. So I'm going to drop the regular foot, and I'm going to put on the open toe foot, because that's just fun. Okay, so let me cut the thread, and I want to show just a decorative stitch. One thing I did not show when I was showing the machine is how to choose a stitch. So choosing a stitch on this machine is really easy. You just go into the button, the second button, the first button on the second row to go into the menu, and then you choose which menu you want to pick stitches from. And of course this is all up on the top with the stitch chart. So basically you find the stitch you want, you go to that number menu, and so I want to go to number 7, and then I would like to do maybe that stitch. So I just hit that stitch. Now if I'm able to make any adjustments, a lot of these decorative stitches you cannot adjust, unfortunately, which is just awful. It's just not very customizable. My Bernina lets me adjust virtually every stitch on the machine, this is insane that you can't here. But you can change the tension, but you can't change left-right shift. You can't change the length or the width. So it's just that's how big the stitch is, period. So unfortunately that kind of sucks. But some of these stitches are ones that actually work with the feed dog moving left and right. So if I were to sew that out, let's see. Yeah, it's actually moving the fabric. Let me show you. It's actually moving the fabric left and right as it sews.